we need to see the strategic domain as kind of mission control that drive change throughout the other four domains, being organizational. Welcome to Digital Transformation Architect, architecting the future of digital transformation. I'm Dr. Darren, and this podcast is for leaders navigating the real-world complexity of modern change. Each week, we cut through the hype to explore how strategy, architecture, technology, and people come together across artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, data, edge, and modern infrastructure. This isn't about chasing tools. It's about designing systems that endure. Let's get started. Okay, on the lecture today, we're going to talk about the strategy domain in the open digital transformation architecture. And we're going to cover the first level layers as mission control for when I'm doing my analysis and I'm working through the whole governing enterprise architecture realization process, that GEAR process. And we always talk about the strategic or the strategy domain first, because that's a very good place to start to kind of frame the analysis across all the domains. And as I've mentioned before, it is really important that when we work through the process of doing that, so that we go broad as we can first. And because some people may get stuck on just the vision statement or the mission statement and say, oh, I got to rewrite that. It's just now is not the time to do that. We're still in the find and observe part of Forge, that find, observe, reconcile, ground, and enhance. We're at the find and observe stage of this. So we're going to go as broad as we can. The idea here is to capture or find everything that's there right now. Don't worry about the reconciliation. Don't worry about redoing things yet. So first thing we want to look at is strategy. So I want to find a vision. Almost every organization has some kind of a vision or a mission. If they don't, they do kind of, maybe it's not written down, just capture it first off, right? So make sure that I capture that first, because if I have the vision and it's clear, I can work through any other issues that are there, like vague constraints, or find out why, what's going on. Also, this vision and mission also helps align the rest of the teams inside the organization around a common goal, so they can be optimized not just locally, but they can be optimized across the organization as a whole. And also in the strategy domain, we're going to capture policy, risk, roadmaps, all these sorts of things. And a lot of times we see failure in the strategy doesn't seem to hit right with all of the organizations, because maybe the vision isn't clear consistently. Maybe constraints around the organization are vague. Maybe the teams are optimized just locally and not across the board. Maybe I haven't identified all the policies and risks that are established. And what happens is you've got this idea of mission and vision and maybe even objectives, but no way of executing those. So it's great that we capture these things, but standing alone tends to fail time and time again. So we need to see the strategic domain as kind of mission control that drive change throughout the other four domains, being organizational, process, digital, and physical domains. And if we see that the strategic domain is kind of the mission control that drives all that, it defines the direction, the guardrails, the outcomes, then executives can now connect better with the underlying organizations inside their enterprise, and it can drive that change throughout the other domains and throughout the organizations. It also forces traceability back up to that vision and mission and value streams and capabilities, all the way down through everything. So people are more aligned to what needs to be done, and it kind of sets all that structure up before I start delivering intentions and delivering the concepts that I describe in the strategic domain. All right, so let's dive into what the strategic domain layers are, because that will do a better job at defining what is the strategic domain. So first off, I've got mission and vision. which define the mission and vision of the organization. I have policy and compliance. I have risk and resilience. I have a roadmap. Now, this is not just a technology roadmap. This is just a roadmap. So we'll talk about that in more detail. And then I have strategy and priorities. And then the last, and probably the one that drives the most underneath the covers, are the value streams and capabilities. So let's dive into each one of these specifically. So when I talk about mission and vision, it's not just a mission statement and a vision statement. I also need to capture leadership aspirations. Why are the leaders, or what are the leaders' aspirations for the company or their personal aspirations? Because that will have a play in that mission and vision statement. Understanding and capturing those is just the key foundational work that you need to do. Then we've got policy and compliance. Now, every organization works inside some kind of legal foundation or policy framework that exists. If you're in healthcare, there's a lot of things around data privacy and patient privacy. If I'm in fintech, there's a lot of information around security that I have to deal with. These policies I need to make sure that I'm adhering to so I can operate my business appropriately. And then I need to have compliance monitoring. So, am I keeping up? Am I complying with the regulations and the policies that I need to? Okay. So that's the policy and compliance. Risk management and risk and resilience includes strategic risk assessment. It includes capability assessment and resilience. And it also includes risk prioritization. So it's important for me to establish the that I have these things. And the idea here is that as I go broad first, that I don't delve into the details of these things, just that I have them and that they're established. If they're not established, that's a gap. So there's going to be a big temptation when you go through these things that you're going to already start wanting to delve into. Oh, our strategic risk assessment's not very good. Let's make some changes. Put a pin in it. Say, I'll come back to that later. Go broad first, then we can go deep. Okay. Then the next sub layer in here is roadmap. So under roadmap, I want to make sure that I'm capturing my current state, which is what we're doing with this assessment. And then also my future state. Where do I want to get to? And this assessment that we're doing is a way of doing that. And then I can look at any transformation initiatives that get me from the current state to the future state. Again, don't do it all right now. We're going broad first. Do I have my current state? Can I capture it? Do I have an idea of my future plan? Yes, I can work on that. And then we'll come back through and build out the transformation initiatives as we iterate through the assessment. Next sublayer is strategy and priorities. This is where I have my strategic objectives that should align to my mission and vision. I have my strategic outcomes that I've already measured in the past or that I am planning in the future. This feeds into roadmap, as you'll see. And then I have my key progress indicators and measures that I need to keep track of. So those are my strategies and priorities. Then the concept of value streams. And this is the sixth layer inside the strategic domain. Value streams are very popular right now in the business realm, and they're very important to an organization as I identify how I can create real value, whether it's revenue or whether it's real value for my constituents in the public sector space, and what capabilities I have to deliver that value to the organization, its customers, or its constituents. And then I can build out a capability matrix or mappings of those things. Again, broad first, then we'll come back and deal with the details on this. Now, these six layers have some interactions and some relationships between them. And determining the order that I do these is kind of tricky sometimes. When you're doing an assessment with someone, you really need to look at primarily their mission and vision first, because they're going to give direction on their strategy and priorities. But in conjunction with that, you got to look at the policies and compliance, because they're going to have effects on strategies and priorities. They're also going to have effect on risk and resilience as well, policy and compliance. And then strategy and priorities will have a direct effect on value streams and capabilities. as well as the roadmap, right? And then the roadmap itself will also feed into the value streams and capabilities. And as well, the roadmap will take information from risk and resilience and feed it into the roadmap as well, which will drive my implementation plans that then drives the delivery of value streams and capabilities. And then as I work through those value streams and capabilities, I have a feedback loop back up to strategies and priorities where I can change those things. So this is just the relationships inside the strategic domain. Each one of these sublayers has components underneath it that can then drive additional relationships to the actual domains that are out there. And most of the relationships that will come out of the strategic domain will come from the value streams and capabilities that will drive change throughout the other four domains of organizational, process, digital, and physical domains. Because if I'm not producing value, then why do I have those elements inside those domains, right? So those are some big questions that we need to answer when we're going through the assessment. And that's part of that reconciliation part of the Forge methodology. Okay, so let's look at what good alignment looks like. So if I have good alignment across the 5 domains of ODXA, or the open digital transformation architecture, that means I can trace priorities to mission, and that so I know down in those priorities and the value streams and capabilities, I can trace those back up to mission. Why am I doing these things? Because they enhance the mission or they support the mission, right? Also, initiatives can pass policy and risk assessments, right? So that's another, I've got good alignment. Also, my roadmap um, uh, maps to capabilities and value streams, right? So having those relationships and understanding what those are will have a big impact and then on execution. And then leaders will be able to see and to rationale um, their investments into different capabilities and value streams based off of those roadmaps that align to their vision and mission. If I have a capability or a mission or a capability that does not align, or a value stream that does not align to mission and vision, then I need to ask, why am I doing it? If I'm not, then I should stop doing it. So it's that simple. So that's just inside the strategic domain. Once I get outside the strategic domain, those capabilities and value streams and roadmap, they will drive the change that I need to make in the other domains. All right, common failure patterns that I've seen out there. If I have a vision that has no constraints, if your vision is, I'm going to change the world, the only constraint you have there is the world, right? Um, I need a vision that has a little bit more constraints than that. Coming up with good vision statements, there are tons of papers and books on vision statements, but this is the common thing that I see out there, vision without constraints. So pay attention to that. Also, if I have compliance and I add it post facto, a lot of times I've already headed down a route that makes it harder to comply with any regulations that I have or policies that have been established that I have to work within. So make sure that you have those compliance, understand those things up front before I go down into the next levels. Also, make sure that we are um, reviewing risks as soon as we possibly can. And if something is of higher risk, that I'm monitoring it effectively, right? Also, make sure that if I have any projects inside my roadmap that or any initiative transformation initiatives that they're tied to real value streams. If I'm just doing it because it feels good, that's probably not the right thing to do. You need to say, I'm doing it because it provides this value to the organization, its customers, or its constituents. And then make sure that I'm tracking um, activity and not just outcomes. If people just track activity or the other way around, I want to track outcomes, not just activities. If I track just activities, the activities cannot lead to producing real value. So I want to make sure that I'm tracking against my KPIs, that the activities that I am keeping track of are providing real value against my KPIs that I have. All right, so key takeaways. You want to start with the 6 layers inside the domain and stay at that layer level. Don't go too deep. Enforce traceability as you're working through it, especially when you get to that reconcile stage where I am adding in all the traceability, and make sure I identify any misalignment before continuing on to the next iteration as I run through this. It's better to catch those things early. And then also take a look at how I am capturing aspiration versus reality. We see this primarily when we look at the mission and vision statements and values of an organization in the organizational layer. When we start looking at the values of the organization, there's what they've documented and what reality is. So we're going to work through those reality gaps in the future. And remember, strategy must be architectural. If it's just a document that's sitting out there, not really, it's looked at maybe once a year, it doesn't really provide any real value. We want to plug this into the full strategic architecture and the full enterprise architecture when we get to all 5 domains. You've been listening to Digital Transformation Architect. If today's discussion helped you see your challenges more clearly, the next step is to apply architecture, not just technology. For deeper conversations with leaders and practitioners shaping real change, listen to Embracing Digital Transformation or check out our website at embracingdigital.org. Until next time, architect the future with intent.